Hey, how you doing? Keith Stevenson here, introducing you to the Thoughtful Teacher, and this is just an overview of this exciting model that we have. So, what is Thoughtful Teacher? Thoughtful Teacher is a classroom management framework that utilizes both virtual learning and on-site coaching to transform the way teachers manage their classroom environments. And why is classroom management so important? So I would argue that a teacher's ability to manage his or her classroom is the most important indicator of short and long-term success. Let's face it, if a teacher cannot manage his or her classroom, they simply are not effective teachers. Okay? They simply are not effective teachers. So, school leaders, the sooner you can get or train teachers to manage their classrooms effectively, the more likely you are and the faster you can achieve school transformation and the more effective your teachers become. So the Thoughtful Teacher story starts like this. My name is Keith Stevenson. I'm the founder. I've been a lifelong educator, been educating students for over 25 years. I've served as a teacher, assistant principal, and superintendent work where I oversaw a number of schools across the country. The fact is, each year I saw teachers tapping out or resigning in October, November, December, January, and if they were lucky to make it to the end of the year, they would not renew a contract for the following year. And they were resigning prematurely for the simple fact that they were stressed out due to students' misbehaviors, right? They were tired of parents complaining. They were tired of administrators being on their backs due to disciplinary issues in the classrooms, fights that they couldn't account for, things being thrown around the room. So they were leaving early because they simply could not manage their classrooms. So while working with teachers, I said, I need to create a management framework that trains teachers to become better classroom managers faster. That way, I will be able to retain my best teachers every year. And the number of best teachers in my school were not just 3 or 4, but now they were 10 or 11 because teachers are able to master that classroom management. And they were now able to focus on higher order instructional skills that we require of our teachers today, right? So I provided them with the foundation to become effective teachers, and it helped to transform the environments in which I led. So that's what I did. And I named this model the Thoughtful Teacher. So Thoughtful Teacher is based off of my work as a leader, training teachers to manage their classrooms, and now I want to help you do the same thing. So I want to ask you as a school leader, how are you developing the classroom management skills of your new or struggling teachers? This is a serious question. Are you digging in and providing the level of feedback that they need to become better teachers each day? Are you? Have you kind of pawned them off on your assistant principals or some mentor, teacher, or some type of department head in your school? I mean, what level of investment do you make as a school leader to develop teachers' classroom management skills? I've already said I think it's the one of the most critical indicators to determine whether a teacher will be successful, both in the short term and in the long term. And with that said, how are you as a school leader providing support for that teacher or for those teachers? So I want you to sit back and close your eyes for a minute, right? And I want you to imagine if your poorest performing teachers performed 50% better. And you may be asking yourself, well, what does 50% better look like? Well, what that looks like is instead of 8 disciplinary referrals per day, you only have 4 coming from these teachers' classrooms. Or instead of 2 or 3, you have 1 and a possible, right? That's a big improvement, right? How much more effective would you be as a leader if you had a group of teachers who are notorious for sending students to the office and referring them for disciplinary reasons? If those numbers were cut in half, we would almost argue that you would be halfway more effective, right? Because you're just not spending the time dealing with, well, Bobby did this, or Raheem did that, or Shelly did this, right? The he say, she say of teachers who cannot manage their classrooms. And 50% better could mean that you don't have those parent complaints that you get of parents requesting that their child be removed from certain teachers' classrooms. Or how about at the end of the school year, instead of 7 or 8 teachers resigning, that number's 3 or 4. That's an improvement. You can really sustain long-term school improvement and growth if, in fact, you're able to eliminate that churn of teachers that occurs year after year. And I would attribute a lot of that to teachers' inability to be able to effectively manage their classrooms. So that's precisely what we want to do at Thoughtful Teacher. We want to improve. We want to drastically improve the classroom management skills of your poorest performing teachers. We realize that as a school leader, there are so many things that you need to do day in and day out. We simply know that you don't possess the bandwidth to drastically improve the performance of your underperforming teachers. You simply have too much on your plate, and Thoughtful Teacher wants to provide a solution for this. So I describe Thoughtful Teacher and its implementation with your teachers in your school as a triple win opportunity. Winner number 1 are the teachers, because they simply become more effective teachers. They have better relationships. They are enduring the stress much better because it's just less stress that they have to endure. Their students are performing better academically. Teachers are definitely winners in the Thoughtful Teacher process. Number 2 are school leaders. School leaders benefit from Thoughtful Teacher because you just have a healthier team of teachers, right? You accelerate that learning curve for teachers. So now no longer does it take 18 months or 24 months or 36 months for this novice teacher to become great. Let's say that we can increase that learning curve by 50% or 70%. So instead of it taking 3 years for a teacher to improve, it now only takes 1 year, right? Consider that. That's real improvement, and that results in the school leaders being winners. You are supporting your teachers in ways that you cannot do alone without additional or without having to allocate additional training time. So this is definitely a winner for you as a school leader. And certainly, last but not least, are the biggest winners, and those are your students. What would you do to have your students simply gain a more effective teacher? What is that worth to you? What is that worth? What is it worth for your students to learn in safer environments? What is that worth? How about just have your students just attend a better school? What is that worth to you? I just will repeatedly ask you, what type of investment would you make, or what type of investment is worth developing a better school that you're leading? So you're probably asking, how does Thoughtful Teacher work? And before I dig into the details, I want to preface my explanation by saying The goal in the creation of this model is not to create additional work for the school leaders or leadership team within the school. Yes, there is minimal responsibility as it relates to you with Thoughtful Teacher. There are a few things you'll need to do. But Thoughtful Teacher, we want to take this level of support in which we're supporting your teachers and become better. We want to remove this from your plate. We certainly do. This is our area of specialty. And we want to make it easier for you, not more difficult. So the first thing we ask teachers to do is to complete the Thoughtful Teacher online course. This course is about 2.5 hours in length, split into 3 parts, and teachers typically complete this course on their own time, whether on a weekend or in the evening. There are some who will do it in groups during planning periods, but it's designed for teachers to complete off-site. So school leaders, you simply do not need to allocate additional time. Number 2, teachers are assigned a transformational coach. And this transformational coach will work directly with your teachers, observing or conducting observations during class time to be able to provide real-time feedback and to be able to customize those supports or those strategies that are delivered within the Thoughtful Teacher online course. So the transformational coach is where the rubber truly meets the road. So step 3, the transformational coach conducts classroom observations, as we just spoke of. And there are 5 classroom observations that are completed. And this occurs over a period of 2 to 3 months, just depending on the teacher and the transformational coach's schedule. But we provide very specific bite-sized feedback for teachers to be able to implement, and that drives drastic improvement as it relates to their classroom performance. Step 4 is the transformational coach conducts post-observation conferences. Of course, these are non-evaluative, right? So the observations, the post-observation conference, these are non-evaluative. We don't want to plant ourselves in the school and take the role of the principal. We want to be able to provide strategic support to be able to drive the performance of your teachers. So this post-observation conference, again, in an attempt to minimize the disruption to the school day, we don't want to take up the teacher's planning period, but we can meet with them face-to-face during the planning period, or we have the option to conduct virtual post-observation conferences in which we would use some type of video conference or something like that to be able to connect with teachers and the transformational coaches to deliver those strategic plans. Step 5 is the transformational coach provides written feedback, and principals, we will loop you into the feedback so you'll know exactly how to support your teachers after we leave. But I promise I would not send you, 30 observations or post-observation feedback forms. I would group them in groups of 5 or 6, and we'd bundle them so it makes it easy for you also. Remember, I was a principal for 9 years. I understand the workload, and I simply do not want to add to it. So step 6, teachers complete a thoughtful teacher assessment. Now let me be clear, all your teachers will be thoughtful teacher certified at the end of the training. So the assessment is simply a part of the certification process, and so we make sure that teachers know how to implement the strategies as it relates to the theory and also the application in their classroom. So there's an assessment that they need to complete at the end of the training. So who is the perfect candidate for thoughtful teacher training? Well, in the schools in which we work, which are, across the country, you have all first and second year teachers. That's a no-brainer. Many principals use us to provide support through like a new teacher academy or something like that to help as a component of maybe some larger trainings. All teachers who struggle with classroom management, I also think that's a no-brainer. All teachers who have students who are not excelling academically. So, leaders, you know these teachers who have been working with students and the students are underperforming. Why? Because the teacher is struggling with the management piece, right? So those are perfect candidates for thoughtful teacher to work with. Teachers who are simply, underachieving as it relates to student achievement. And the last one is an interesting one. Oftentimes, principals will contract with thoughtful teacher to provide additional feedback to or provide additional supports to teachers who may be on a performance improvement plan. Okay, so this usually happens mid-year. If you have a teacher who is struggling, we provide additional support. The principal can document it, and then at some point, if they need to show how they've supported these teachers, then the documentation would be right within their reach. So I know I've been speaking about the transformational coaches. So who are the transformational coaches? Well, most of them are former experienced teachers. Some of them are retired teachers. We also have some school administrators who are supporting us. We have assistant superintendents. We have former superintendents. So we have educators from all walks of life. They've all been successful. But most importantly, as it relates to the thoughtful teacher, they're certified in the thoughtful teacher model. Right? So they go through an extensive training program to make sure that not only that they understand the theory and the application as it relates to classroom strategies, but also that they know how to coach, right? We want them to develop positive, healthy relationships with the teachers with whom they're working. So we invest time in training our coaches to be outstanding coaches, right? So that's all part of the thoughtful teacher model and all part of the certification process. So, unfortunately, we're in a day and age where we have to say that all of our coaches are complete background checks prior to working with teachers. We have not had any issues with this, but I think largely is we do a good job screening our coaches, number one. And a part of that process is to making sure that they have a clear background as it relates to, working with teachers. So what are the results? Well, 80% of the teachers who completed thoughtful teacher training report dramatic improvements in classroom management. All right, so that's a big number, 87%. And we launched this last school year. We worked in districts from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia to New Jersey and Baltimore, right? And 87% of those teachers who completed the training reported drastic improvements. 90% of teachers who completed thoughtful teacher training returned to their school the following year. That goes back to a point I made earlier. If you can retain teachers, if you can develop teachers to make them good, make them effective, make them successful, and then you're able to retain them from year to year, it just makes for a much easier school to lead, and the more likely you are to be able to drive long-term school improvement if you're able to retain your teachers. 100% of principals, I'll say that again, 100% of principals reported that thoughtful teacher training improved the performance of their poorest performing teachers. So I want to make this clear. This is not saying that the poorest teachers in the building became the best. What it is saying is 100% of those teachers who worked with thoughtful teacher demonstrated some level of improvement. But 100% is a big number. 96% of teachers report a positive approval rating regarding their transformational coaches. We think that this is critical. We take this relationship extremely seriously because we know that the transformational coaches are required to develop a professional relationship with your teachers so they can be accepted by the teachers to maximize teacher growth, right? This is a critical piece. So we pay a lot of attention to the approval rating for transformational coaches. And 90% of principals report the number of disciplinary referrals, and we've already touched on this earlier. The number of disciplinary referrals from the neediest teachers decreased. So that's big. If you're a school leader and you have, a bunch of brand new teachers or a bunch of teachers who are struggling, Thoughtful Teacher provides them with strategies, right? That they become more effective teachers. And as a result, they generate less disciplinary referrals. That's huge. And last but not least, 92% of teachers report that Thoughtful Teacher training resulted in them becoming more reflective practitioners. Now, I know it doesn't sound like a big catchy word, right? Reflective practitioner. But let's think about it. You simply will not improve as an educator unless you reflect on your work. And that's what teachers in Thoughtful Teacher do. They reflect on their practice, specifically as it relates to classroom management. So what is the financial investment? So before I get into the financial investment, I want to just say that, we will only be working in 10 schools for school year 2017-2018. We're in demand, but we really have to watch our growth as a company. We want to be committed to providing a great customer service and great quality as opposed to quantity. Yes, we could probably be in 60 to 70 schools this year, but we want to limit it to 10. So we want to make sure that we get it right and we continue to provide a quality product. So with that said, we will not work in your school unless you make an investment for at least 4 teachers. It doesn't make sense for us to work in schools with just a teacher here, a teacher there. Now, if you're a cluster of schools working together, maybe that's a different situation and we will address that. But if you're a standalone school, the minimum teachers with whom Thoughtful Teacher will work is 4 teachers. And between 4 and 6 teachers, it's $2,500 per person. If you have 7 to 9 teachers, it's $2,250 per person. So $2,250 per teacher. And if you have more than 9 teachers, the cost is $2,000 per teacher. Now, some of you may be saying, boy, this is nothing, while some of you may be saying, ooh, that's a lot. What is the alternative? Is the alternative just to allow your teachers to struggle in silence and have them resign in the middle of the school year? For you to invest lots of money into recruiting for new teachers? Or is a better path to invest in the teachers in which you have in your school and grow as a cohort, grow as a staff, and become better long term? I think the better option is to, develop your staff, but ultimately you have to be the judge of that. So typically, school leaders fund Thoughtful Teacher by using Title I funds, Title II funds, grants, or I even had a school whose PTA said, look, we have a number of first-year teachers this year. We need to provide them with support. We have a pot of money on the side that we, developed from some fundraising activities. We want to pay for the Thoughtful Teacher services through a PTA donation. So that's a creative way to do it. But these are typically the funding sources that are used to pay for Thoughtful Teacher. So is your school a good fit for Thoughtful Teacher? I certainly hope so. There are tons of great schools out there. Like I said, we're only going with 10 this year. So in order for us to gain some insight into your school and learn some of the specifics, please complete the school interest form. It's a tinyurl.com/school-interest form. There's a short form, like I said, it will provide us with some insight. We will follow up and we'll make the determination whether we'll be able to work with your school. So that brings us to the end of the Thoughtful Teacher model overview. My contact information is keith@thoughtfulteacher.org, and I'm Keith Stevenson, the Executive Director. My phone number is 240-801-7432. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to give me a shout, shoot me a text, what have you. And if you're just looking for additional information, our website is www.thoughtfulteacher.org. I want to thank you for your time this afternoon, and I look forward to working with you in the future.